Artificial intelligence, they have this rule. What is artificial intelligence? Well, if it's a black box and you can't tell whether there's a machine or a person in there, it's an artificial intelligence. It's an artificial intelligence. You might set up a similar test with the alien in the head. I've tried to figure out, how can I tell that it's not me? How can I create a logically tight trap so that I can absolutely tell that it isn't me? And I haven't been able to figure out how to do that. Learning stuff from entities is not respectable in our present, official intellectual world. This is, to my mind, one of the great suppressed stories of modern history. In August of 1619, a retreating Habsburg army camped in Ulm, in southern Germany. And in this group of troops was a young French adventurer. That night, he slept, and an angel appeared to this young man. So he slept, had a dream, and an angel appeared to this young man and said, "The mastery of nature is achieved through measure and number." This was René Descartes. This was the founder of materialism, rationalism. His marching orders were given to him in the same way that Muhammad got his marching orders. Well, they're not talking about this at Caltech and MIT, let me tell you.
Hello and welcome to the show, folks. Famously and Martin, Exiled Minds Podcast. Nice to be here. Having a few problems with the stream, having a few technical issues, but managed to get them sorted out, it looks like. So went for everything, went through the list, and I think it was another thing that's like a new addition that, you know, didn't normally be accounted for. So I think we might have it fixed. So hopefully get that got that sorted out, and then going forward, we'll be able to. We've got great news for the show. My friend Michael Strange has started his own radio network, and he's invited me on there. There's a couple of my friends already on there. James of Salcedo Paranormal is on there, and so yeah, there's the Arcane Observer, friend Jennifer. She's going to be on there too. There's Serena. There's going to be some great shows. There's some things in the works. I've been doing some production work in the background for the network in general, sort of thing. Working with Michael in the background on it. So yeah, it looks like it's been pretty cool. So then I suddenly got a few technical issues. So I'm a little bit behind with episodes, but I'm going to catch up. I'm going to do some pre-records, and then we'll see how it goes. But up to now, it looks like the stream is back up and running again. So I've got a show today in cahoots, actually, with AI. Got some one of them artificial intelligence language program things that are out these days. I used to think it was a bit rubbish. I never really bothered with them. It always felt like they were kind of like chatting to a teenager and they didn't really go anywhere. But my friend Michael, aforementioned, who's just started the digital radio network, Troubled Minds Radio Network, KUAP, digital broadcasting, which they say Exiled Minds Podcast will be going on there. So you'll find Liam Martin on there, on the radio. But he's been using, my mate Mike, he's been using a ChatGPT. And so it's OpenAI. Anyone can go on it. It's a model called ChatGPT, which interacts in a conversational way. So you can have a dialogue with it. It's like talking to a person, but it's good. It can hold a conversation. This one can hold a conversation. And because it's an AI, it's got the internet to work with. It could just go and look the answers up for you. So it saves you a lot of time having to find things, and then you can ask it questions on that. Whereas normally you could just type the question that you want to ask that occurs to you. Whereas normally you would have to ask yourself the question and then go in a browser and type it, try and find it. And maybe you don't find that thing. But with this thing, it'll go and look, and if there's nothing there, you can ask it in a different way. And it's great. It really saves you a lot of legwork. So I got it to have a look at these peoples. I wanted to do a show today. I've heard this name, the Dravidians. And I've heard them associated with Africa in some way, or mining in some way. But they're an Indian culture, ancient. So I thought we'll get this computer to have a look and see what this is all about, sort of thing. So today's show, Exiled Minds Podcast, on a Wednesday, 24th of May for me, 2023. Today we've got a show on these Dravidian people that have popped up when I did some studies into Africa and the gold mining, or Anunnaki stuff that comes up, possible extraterrestrials mining gold. So we did the Alam's Calendar show, which is about a stone structure, a bit like kind of a Stonehenge in South Africa. And then there's a lot of mining involved, it seems, and there's loads of stone circles all over South Africa. And there's been loads of mining there. And so with these Dravidians popping up, I thought on the Exiled Minds podcast tonight, we'll take a look at this very ancient set of peoples then from South India, who seem to be somehow connected to Africa in some way. So I wanted to look at the commonalities, if there are any ancestral connections. I want to see what language connections, because of course, as we always say, the world is made of language here on this show. Well, I say it because it is. You've got to be able to label things to describe them and whatnot. So we've got into that before, but yeah, the language is important. And of course, there's that thing of, you know, if you, like in the Bible and stuff, you split the languages up and then people kind of lose their ability to communicate. And, you know, this is about a conversation to get these knowledges back. There's a lot of suppressed stuff out there. There's a lot of history that we haven't uncovered yet. There's a lot of stuff that's known that's not really been printed, not necessarily because it's been suppressed. It's just so much stuff. The world's a big place. That's why you've got to talk to other people. So today we're going to have a look at this connections with the language, ancestral connections, and see if there's any connection to gold mining, because I know there's a lot of that in South Africa. So I thought, oh, what are these Dravidians about? So, to begin with then, with the help of ChatGPT, which has become a really great buddy, so I'm going to start calling him G-Dog, because my homie. So ChatGPT. Yeah, let's get this camera on. I was supposed to have a camera. I can quickly, because I'm a pro, I can quickly just put that on the stand there. Well, I'll do that in a sec. I'll have a break soon and get the camera on after break. But I can do share screen. So, yeah, ChatGPT. Dravidian people. Exiled Minds Podcast. We're going to have a look at these people. So, who they are, I've discovered through this, is that the Dravidian peoples are a large linguistic and cultural group native in South India and parts of Sri Lanka. They're one of the oldest and most extensive ethno-linguistic groups in India, with a history dating back several millennia, so a couple of thousand years at least. We've got the Dravidian language families made up of approximately 26 languages. This is what I'm talking about. Got a language stuff going on, a lot of it, a lot of languages, to ancient India as well. Let's get a map up of India. Let's have a look. Let's share the screen. Let's get just for the video viewers. Let's get, oh no, it's not done one. Let's try again. Let's try Google, good old fashioned Google. So India, let's have a look. And Sri Lanka. Spelled that wrong. Yeah, just for the video viewers. I just thought I'd get an image up just for something to kind of look at. So you can kind of get an idea of the area. So yeah, India and Sri Lanka, 26 languages, the Dravidian people. The language family is made up of approximately 26 languages, which includes Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, and Malayalam. I think these are the main groups of languages used in India. Anyway, these languages are distinct from the Indo-European languages spoken by the majority of people in India. The Dravidian people have a rich history and culture with a strong tradition in art, music, literature and dance. Which personally, I think that's important. I think that's, I don't want to say it's not really a smoking gun exactly, but so listen to that again. They have a rich history and a strong tradition in the art, music, literature, language, and dance. All right. So what we're doing with art is that creative endeavors, and we're painting the world or showing the world in some way to art, right? So we're manifesting, bringing things in, music, same sort of thing, literature, language, understanding the world, and dance, expression, language. It's all like communication stuff and describing the world stuff and expression stuff. And it's the same kind of things that the Japanese. Is it, or in the sort of Enlightenment period in China, there was an area, wasn't there a time in China where all the emperors and stuff were like doing poetry and calligraphy and stuff, but nobody was like running the country, so it all like kind of fell into disrepair. Was it Japan or China, one of them, or maybe both? But yeah, so, but there's this, because that's the kind of thing, the arts, I always think, that speaks a lot to your culture, how much of that you've got and how much sort of importance you put on those things. And they also made significant contributions to Indian civilization, just in general, to like building the civilization, the Dravidians, because they were particularly good in the areas of philosophy and religion as well, and the sciences. So we've got them, the Dravidians have rich history and culture and strong traditions surrounding art, music, literature and dance as kind of full staple kind of light body things. But then on the other hand, they've made significant contributions in the thinking side of the brain, the philosophy. I suppose that's creative as well, but that kind of getting down to the nitty gritty, nuts and bolts stuff, philosophy, religion, and sciences. You know, how does it work? So they've been quite influential with India, the Dravidians. Many Dravidian peoples follow their own unique religious traditions too, including Hinduism, Jainism, and various indigenous religions. The Dravidian peoples have also faced a number of challenges throughout their history. They have been subject to discrimination and marginalisation, particularly under British colonial rule. Whoops. Yes. Yeah, British Raj and all that. Yeah. But this was the times, okay. So yeah. So they suffered under British rule. A lot of people did then. In India, it's tough times, man. But today, the Dravidian political movements and parties advocate for greater rights and representation for Dravidian peoples in India. And so, yeah, I mean, okay, so going on, finding out a little bit more. So I thought that's just give me a bit of a skinny, but on the overview, thanks to ChatGPT, gives me a nice overview of the Dravidians there. So I thought, well, that's the language aspects that's cool, and they seem pretty sophisticated people. And in reading about this, I asked the question about the significant contributions to elaborate a little bit more on what these were. And it mentioned that one of the significant contributions was the Sulba Sutra. The Sulba Sutras, and asked the ChatGPT GDog to see if there's anything what that's about, and put them in the context of these sutras. Is there any sort of mystery stuff? So it came back that the Sulba Sutras are a collection of ancient texts that contain some of the earliest known descriptions of geometry and algebra. Okay, so into the sciences again. The word Sulba means chord, and the texts were so named because they contain instructions for the construction of sacrificial altars using cords, as in rope. The Sulba Sutras were written in Vedic Sanskrit, a language that was spoken in ancient India. The Sulba Sutras were written between the 8th and 5th centuries BCE, making them some of the oldest known mathematical texts in the world. The texts contain detailed instructions on the construction of various shapes, including squares, rectangles, and circles, using chords of different lengths. These shapes were used in construction of sacrificial altars for religious ceremonies. They say religious. Whenever you hear that, oh, it's for religious practices, that's like a generic explanation when they don't really know what they're for. Just to point out, I'm not saying it's not that, but that you do hear that like for a religious, ceremonial artifact. Don't know what it is, but yeah, maybe it was for that. But maybe it's doing magic. I'll just say it. Maybe it's doing magic. Maybe it's trying to do that. Who knows? With the ropes and stuff. In fact, aren't India known for like the snake charming thing and making ropes like stand up like a snake and stuff? Come to think of it, in fact, India's an old culture. They do magic. They've totally got magic. They've got hand magic and all sorts. But anyway, yeah, maybe it was magic rope. No, I wonder if that's a thing then. The snake and the rope and I'll have to look into that. Anywho, maybe I'll type it in the break. I've got a break coming up in a few minutes, so maybe or maybe it's one for another show. Magic rope. But anyway, yeah. So they've got this rope for sacrificial altars, and then it seems a weird thing to. Maybe they're drawing shapes. It's got to be something magical. If you're drawing shapes with rope to do ceremonies, that's got to be some magical practice. Anyway. But yeah, they've got some of it in the Sanskrit, as it mentioned. Sula Sutras were written between the 8th and 5th century BCE. So it's over 2,000 years old, some of the oldest mathematical texts in the world. So like I say, it's very sophisticated people and very ancient. Loads of language influence. And they seem to be focusing on the kind of main things in life, So they've got, various shapes that you make with these chords. And, it's interesting. You've got the thing about the silver cord. It's supposed to be where your soul's attached to you and, in in Buddhism and Hinduism, India and Chinese culture. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, I mean, it says one of the mysteries surrounding the Suba Sutras is how the ancient Indian mathematicians who wrote them were able to achieve such a high level of mathematical sophistication without the use of mathematical notations and symbols that we use of today. You know, so we have like a symbol for infinity and a symbol for like Planck's distance, and the science symbols that they use in equations. They haven't got them. So how do they express it? Is the question. It's a bit of a mystery. The texts use a system of verbal descriptions and diagrams to convey mathematical concepts, and it is not entirely clear how these concepts were derived. So have they got them? And I personally think a lot of information isn't necessarily coming from a nuts and bolts rationalistic thinking way, and that's why they don't necessarily know where they've come from. As in, maybe an angel told you, right? Maybe a ghost, maybe a burning bush spoke to you and told you. Maybe you just meditated on it and kind of got the answer from who cares where it came from. Maybe it's your own imagination. Maybe some entity whispered it. Maybe you just pulled the information as an energy form, just pulled it towards you, like magnetism, just by thinking about it a lot. Who knows, right? Who indeed knows? But maybe that's the thing. Maybe and just passing it on and the verbal thing, maybe it's just good describers. And it also came up with another mystery as well. And it concerns the relationship between the Suba Sutras, these core ritual things, and ancient Indian mathematical texts, such as the Bakshali manuscript and the Siddhanta texts. Yeah, that's that guy. Yeah, okay, the Siddhanta texts. It's not clear whether these texts share a common mathematical tradition or whether they were developed independently. And the Siddhanta text, wasn't that the name of the Buddha? Before it was enlightened and become the Buddha, I'm pretty sure that's what that means. Actually, let me just copy paste that. Siddhanta. I'm gonna stick that in a browser and just look that up because I'm for Siddhartha. Siddhanta in Sanskrit is a term denoting the established and accepted view of a political school within Indian philosophy. Oh, okay. Literally settled opinion or doctrine, dogma, axioms received or admitted truths. Any fixed or established or contextual textbook on any subject. Well, that's my little alarm there telling me I've got to go for a break. So, yeah, Exiled Minds Podcast then. Trying to get tight to a radio clock. But you know what? We can do it. I think we can do it. So I'm gonna stick on. I've been making some montage tracks for the radio, KUAP, Troubled Minds Radio Network, KUAP Digital Broadcasting. So I'm going to play one of them next. Let's get one of these on. A time travel one. So yes, back in just a moment. With me, Liam Martin, Exiled Minds Podcast. Just a few minutes. Back in a sec.
The nature of our universe,
We'll continue
the reality which we live in.
explore this awesome.
We have a three-dimensional reality which we all know and accept and see.
Given the capability.
One idea of the third dimension is
beginning to fade, sir.
reconstructed by high vision.
I didn't think it was possible. She's radar,
which you can show as a three-dimensional vector. The fourth dimension is the standard linear time dimension as we know it. The flow of time measured by a clock. Whether it be a wind-up electric or an atomic clock, it's still a linear function.
Classified using the military.
It doesn't normally change the rate of flow.
We invented the internet, tried teleportation, thermomagnetic,
measured in a laboratory.
31, T.P. Ouspensky wrote a book entitled Tertium Organum, a New Model of the Universe, in which he described the five-dimensional structure of our universe.
Subjective sensory becoming where we
luck if you can understand it. He laid out the groundwork. Later on, it was understood that this fifth dimension was actually another vector on the end of the time vector, which is spinning.
The whole sometimes landscape system we form behind us and we move through it.
They were not attempting to change time or move through time with the ship. What occurred was an accident in 1943.
This is some sort of pressure ratio, longitudinal stability, hydraulic interface module. Oh wait, here we go. ID number 453 Delta 7. Project Almanac.
Other projects were placed under the general umbrella of what was called the Phoenix Project.
A fabulous bird, reborn from the ashes of its earlier life.
And the scientists looked for a haven. They found it down at Montauk.
Looked like you've just taken the entire German fleet out of this war.
Van Neumann was asked, he reopened the project, and in between other responsibilities, which included chasing with Dr. Vannevar Bush, a head scientist and advisor to the president.
They say the Eldridge is
What they were attempting to do was alter the spinner rate, which would change relationship phase-wise of the ship to time, give it a partial time rotation. If you rotate it sufficiently, the ship becomes radar invisible, and you rotate a little more, it becomes optically invisible.
Kill the Eldridge, kill the generators.
If you rotate it 90 degrees, it'll probably drop out of our universe, which is what did happen.
Check it, word. Exiled Minds Podcast. KOEP Radio, Troubled Minds Radio Network. Gonna be great. Get onto that show. Anyway, for now though, hopefully the stream's gonna be working fine. For now, I'll just turn that off. Back to Dravidians. So yeah, welcome back, Exiled Minds Podcast, Wednesday, 24th of May. 2023 with me, Liam Martin, and yeah, exploring the Dravidians with the help of an AI, which I'm using for the first time today, so that'd be pretty cool. Let's adjust that mic a little bit. Okay, yes, so let's carry on exploring them, because so far with I'll just get my little scripty thing up there. Yeah, so far I've explored that they've got a lot of language links. They're into a lot of the philosophy and the sciences. Seem quite sophisticated. Like they say, there's a lot of mathematical stuff that they've done. There's been a heavy influence on Indian culture. Some of the earliest mathematical texts. They seem to know the stuff. So let's continue then. We found out about the Suba Sutras. This kind of strange, kind of using chords to make shapes to do ceremonial sacrifice. Personally, I think it's a bit strange sounding, a little bit funky, but I reckon there's magical overtones to this, because there is to everything pretty much. True that. Word. Anyway, so moving on. So Michael Tellinger does a lot of work on South Africa. We did the Sean Adams calendar so I think this is where I heard the name from Tellinger, the Dravidians. That's where it popped up. And so he'd mentioned the work of a guy called Cyril Romnik, or Hromnik, with a H, silent H. Cyril Hromnik argues that there's a lot of connection between Africa and India going like way back. because it looks like the Dravidians might have been into mining as well. But if we read the works of, for the video viewers, we'll get this. Oh, just a little side note though. I wanted to mention this. In the movie, this is another thing about them. See, we found out where the Dravidians were good with the sciences. They're very sophisticated, and they had a bit of, say, they had like 26 language influences, and they were, they had this, these sutras that they came up with, but there was also heavily into, the sciences and dance. What else did we have? What was the list? Let's have a look. So what was it? Yeah, there was interest. Yeah, I was interested in the dance and doing the art, and I was talking about how it's different ways to express. There was interest in literacy, but I noticed that when it came up with the dance stuff, it came up with this this style of dance, of classical dance forms, and so I thought this was unusual because this really rang home for me in a personal way, because these it says there's this thing, it's a hard thing to pronounce, but it's the Bharatanatyam. Bharatanatyam is an Indian classical dance form that is originated from Tamil. That's one of the languages. Tamil Nadu. One of the 8 Indian classical dance forms recognized by Sangeet Natak Academy, expresses some of Indians' religious themes and spiritual ideas, particularly Shaivism and in general of Hinduism. And so I'm thinking, okay, I know what that is then. That's your Bollywood dancing, right? And they told the stories, okay, but they've got an unusual kind of singing, and you see it in Life of Pi, if you see in that film, right near the beginning. But it rang true for me, because in the 90s used to be a British trance outfit that used to use some of this type of singing. It sounds amazing. It's a weird kind of singing. It's like Indian scatting, if you remember jazz scat, but it got an Indian version. But it's like telling stories. It's an interesting way to talk. I'm really fascinated with language. It's just an interesting way to sing, and it reminds me of how the Box Saga said that there used to be a language that we got from nature that was harmonic. And then it reminds me of, because I'm doing sci-fi stuff, it reminds me of the Voyager episode when you had Robert Picardo who played that doctor, holographic doctor, and they're like singing opera, and he becomes famous on this planet because they don't have singing. There's no such thing as singing there. Singing. I thought it was a little interesting little side note. For me, it was anyway, because of the trance outfit, Union Jack, on Platypus Records. Yeah, give me a little booster. But anyway, moving on. A little side note there. But yeah, after the sutras, then we've got this work of Cyril Hominack. So let's get this guy up. We've got thanks Microliths. There was that as well. Hindu Kushvian. Yeah, maybe we'll just type this guy in, because I want to get an image of him just for the video viewers. So Cyril H. Romnick. Let's get an image of this guy. Oh, okay. In fact, let's read this blurb for somebody's wrote about him. Okay, don't want to trim that. Or Facebook blurb. So basically, this guy's a writer and a researcher who's interested in the origins of human civilization, and he's wrote several books. Got his email address there on screen for people, Facebook page. But yes, Dr. Cyril Romnick is a South African writer and researcher who's interested in the origins of human civilization. Like I say, he's wrote several books on various topics, including the history and mythologies of the Dravidian people. One of Romnick's most notable works is his book Indo-Africa, Towards a New Understanding of the History of Sub-Saharan Africa. So here, I do believe, this comes up, and this scholarly article here from his book. The Indian Connection, an assessment of Romanak's Indian Africa. So that's this is Martin Hall and C.H. Bolland, who wrote an academic paper about his stuff, possibly refuting it and whatnot. So we'll put links in the descriptions. But basically, through doing research, his book, Romanak's basically talking, he suggests that there was ancient connection between Dravidian people and South India and the indigenous peoples of southern Africa. Romanak proposes that these two groups shared a common ancestry. See, that was one of the key questions at the beginning. Are there any ancestral links? Okay. Because I'm sort of interested in how people are blended together and stuff. Try and look at the timeline as a big overview. So he believes that there could be a common ancestry. Dravidians were responsible for bringing advanced agricultural and metallurgy technologies to southern Africa. So then that becomes a controversy because then it's foreigners coming in, sort of thing. However, Romanak's theories have been met with significant criticism and skepticism from mainstream scholars who argue that his claims lack sufficient evidence and are not supported by archaeological record. Many of Romanak's claims have been described as speculative and lacking significant rigour. So his work, you got to be critical. But you have to with so-called scholars as well and leaders in the field, because for various reasons, you've got to check it for yourself. Check the evidence. As Andrew Johnson would say, it's the name of his website. But yeah, check the evidence. But he's got intriguing ideas. So, but there are the links between India and. So okay, so what's India and? Because they've got a lot of connections. So there's a trade route then. So while why it's not accepted necessarily, and there's not widely accepted evidence supporting a direct ancestry between Indian and African culture. There are some areas where the cultural connections or influences have been observed, so it says in the research. So what are these then? These connections often result in historical interactions such as trade routes, migrations, and here's a few examples. So you're gonna cross over with people. Because India and Africa aren't that far away. They're like next to each other, sort of thing. But there's points where it's not. The Bodhi Dharma walked from West Africa to India. No, he walked from West Africa to China, in fact. So I'm just saying, you can walk it. Just about it's a bit of water to cross, but you can get away with it. Anyway. No, right, so there's a few examples then. So here's 4 examples of ways that we're going to cross over. So the Indian Ocean trade route has been a significant route of trade for cultural exchange between India and Africa for centuries. Maritime trade routes facilitated the movements of goods, ideas, and people between the two regions, leading to cultural cross-pollination. A Swahili culture found along the eastern coast of Africa, particularly in countries like Kenya, Tanzania, and Mozambique, shows influences from Indian Ocean trade. Swahili language itself is a blend of Bantu languages, significantly loans words from Arabic and Persian, which in turn has interactions with Indian cultures. Right, and that whole Middle East and Anatolia area, like Turkey and stuff, that's been massive in history anyway, which covered that in the Karahan Tepe one. There's just so much funky stuff that's gone on there as well. But anyway, so again, Gujarat, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but Gujarat African connections. The Indian state of Gujarat, located in western coast of India, has historical ties with Eastern Africa. Gujarat traders, particularly from Gujarat Jain and Muslim communities, have been had long-standing business relationships with countries such as Tanzania, Kenya, and Uganda. Also, let's bring Uganda into it. And Uganda, of course, is just north of. It's South Africa still, really, and there's loads of those stone circles there. And also with the Uganda, we found that was where we had the Butwizi people, because there's a line that goes right from Adam's calendar in South Africa, right up to North Africa where the Egyptian pyramid is, and it's on the 33rd parallel, which is the number for the Anunnaki and stuff. And there's a line that goes straight down, and it cuts straight through some major spots on Africa, and one of them is cutting through Uganda, and I happen to see it cuts through a lake, right? And thinking of water portals, and Derek, the Night Stalker, shouts out to the Night Stalker, I happened to check this lake and zoom in on Google Earth, and it looked like there were structures underneath, and they were highlighted in red, so I couldn't miss them. And then I pulled on that thread, and it turns out these Butwizis were supposed to have been like 12-foot beings with supernatural powers. So, and the locals knew them, they're like friends of them, and they call on them in times of need. And they're supposed to have disappeared into this lake, which was called Lake Albert, and the 33rd parallel cuts right through it. And I was like, what? So interesting Uganda's involved with these people, just because it's ancient stuff and looking for weird connections of ancient Africa. Okay, so Uganda comes up, and Tanzania and Kenya again. So we got that. This resulted in cultural interactions over centuries. Okay, in Indian diaspora in Africa, Indian communities have settled in various parts of Africa for centuries as well. So, particularly in countries like South Africa, Mauritius, and again Uganda. So over time, these communities have contributed to the local culture through their languages, food, religion, and customs, right? And a lot of Indian dress wear is very similar to African dress wear. Now, from the African perspective, I've heard that claim that, we was here longer, they got our dress from us. We are, do you know what I'm saying? They are connected. I've heard that from sort of African scholars talking about Kemet. But they're sort of saying, no, it's India getting their influence from us because it was an older civilization sort of thing. So it does get you wondering, doesn't it? It's not a race of who come first, but I just want to see how they're connected and what they both knew. Because in this day and age, both their cultures are kind of like, the history is not sold, it's not sold to the West, is it? It's not promoted, you know. Dare I say it's been held back at times through the decades. But anyway, we all know that. I don't need to get into that. So yeah, these connections, again, the AI just kind of leave little caveats, like disclaimers, like this one. It tells you the stuff, the connections, but it keeps reminding you, you know, it is important to note that these connections are primarily cultural and do not imply direct genetic or ancestral links. Human populations have complex histories, and when tracing specific genetic ancestral connections, it requires rigorous scientific analysis and evidence. It warns you. Like, you know, don't just go with it all. Your brains fall out. So yeah, it does do the little disclaimers, this thing. But yeah, it's interesting though. And when it comes to the gold mining, so that's what I got them thinking about. Because that's where the rubber meets the road with South Africa and all that African stuff. The gold, it's all been about gold mining, it seems. So what they like for gold mining with the Dravidians. Well, funny you should ask. Gold. Funny you should ask. And if you're not asking where the gold is, why not? Where's the gold? Where's the damn gold? Goldman Sachs. Sorry. Gold in Sachs, I said. I'd love a sack of gold. Anyway, I got cramp in my leg. Gold mining. The Sangam literature, a collection of ancient Tamil texts, also refers to gold mining activities carried out by the Dravidians. The literature mentions the presence of gold miners in the rivers and hills of Tamil Nadu, indicating the gold was extracted from these natural resources. Archaeological excavations have unearthed remnants of ancient gold mining sites in different parts of South India. For example, the excavation of megalithic burial sites in the state of Kerala revealed traces of gold mining and processing activities. Furthermore, the ancient Dravidian civilization had a sophisticated knowledge of metallurgy, including goldsmithing. The intricate gold jewellery, ornaments and artefacts found in excavations are a testament to their skill and expertise in working with gold. So they're both good at gold. Both good at doing gold. Definitely both good at gold then. Africa and ancient India good at gold stuff. Overall, while there is evidence of gold mining by the Dravidian people in various regions, it is important to note that gold mining is not limited to Dravidian civilization alone. Yeah, obviously, a lot of people like gold. There's a widespread practice across different ancient civilizations in India and other parts of the world. Yeah, people like gold. Dravidian civilization has sophisticated knowledge of metallurgy, including it said working various metals, including gold, silver, copper, and iron. Just general expertise is evident from the artifacts. So, they're good at this stuff. They've got this. I'm telling you, that stuff. Dravidians were skilled in extracting metals from ore and had knowledge of smelting techniques. They developed efficient methods of mining and extracting metals from the earth. Okay. Well, let's move this off here. Let's have a look then. So we've got a gold mining. So what else have we got? So there's lots of smithing, lots of intricate. So they seem very, very sophisticated. And say they've got the metallurgy skills, the goldsmithing, using copper alloys, even alloying, the art of alloying copper with tin to produce bronze, which was stronger and more durable than pure copper. Bronze was used to create weapons such as swords, axes, spears, as well as utensils and statues. Ironworking was another significant aspect of Dravidian metallurgy. The Dravidians were among the early civilizations to discover to utilize iron. They were one of the first people to do iron. They developed techniques to extract iron from iron ore and used it for manufacturing tools, agricultural implements, weapons, and construction materials. So for construction as well. So yeah. And there's, of course, famously, there's that in India, there's the famous iron pillar of Delhi. There's a picture of it for the video viewers. But yeah, famous iron pillar, a little fence around it. It's got, it doesn't rust. And people are, because it always sounds like very mysterious, because people are like, oh, it's 99% pure iron. And people don't know 99.99% iron purity. So pure, no one knew how to cast it. But in reality, it's only, according to atlasobscura.com, it's not really 99.9% pure, it's 98% pure. Of ancient lost techniques in metallurgy, and of suggestions that it was made from some sort of futuristic... Yeah, people trying to upsell it a bit. But, it's 98% pure. It's still pretty cool. But yeah, 98% pure. And they obviously knew the stuff, And they knew about casting as well. So you could cast that if you wanted to. So yeah. But they were really good. Really good at this stuff. So that iron pillar was always a bit of a mystery, and like they're not rusting. And they say the explanation of this is that they say in this article that the reason it's not they don't rust. It's just a freak of the environment, because there's not much moisture in the air. It's got a coating over it that sort of protects it. It has avoided corrosion from the rains and temperature fluctuations for at least 1,600 years, though it says it's magical. It's not from magical metallurgy techniques. It's an accidental formation, a form of passive protective film. The film was created by accident through a complicated combination of a lack of lime in the furnaces used to make the iron pillar, the presence of raw slag and unreduced iron in the pillar, and the wetting and drying cycles of the weather. All of this helps to create 1/20th of a millimeter thick layer of misawit on the pillar. Miserwite. Miserwite is a compound of iron, oxygen, and hydrogen, which does not rust. Okay? But then that begs the question, if they know a lot about metallurgy and they're really good at it, and that sounds like a mistake thing, maybe through the process they discover that that does that and stops it rusting. So maybe they started making it good, but then doing that on purpose at the end to put a coat on it so it won't rust. Obviously, you probably screw up before you get it good. But if you notice that stuff don't rust, then you're going to use that technique to stop your iron from rusting, aren't you? I would have thought. They probably figured that out themselves and then did it on purpose so it won't rust. But I just have thought, I don't know. I'm just making the point that they seem to, it's almost like these historians want to tell you that people lived back in the day who didn't get stuff, didn't understand. But anyway, gets my goat, as they say. But anywho, Ethiopia then. So, all right then. So, right, is it? I wanted to know if there's any connections. I poked this AI a little bit more. And then I put connections between African and mining connections between the two of them. There are some proposed links between Dravidian peoples and Africa, particularly in relation to ancient mining practices. These connections are based on archaeological findings and linguistic theories. As I mentioned, there's 26 languages linking a lot of that ancient Indian stuff. So, if they're hooking up with Africa as well and making settlements, there's going to be some crossover, as we talked about. Okay, one aspect proposed by the Dravidian African link is the presence of specific stone tools known as microliths. They're small, crafted stone implements that are commonly used by various ancient cultures. Okay, so let's have a quick picture of some microliths. So these microliths are sort of like, they're like flints in a way. They're like little stones. And yeah, so they're like little flints, stones, like chipped off, like sort of oblong stones, kind of chipped off, like napped off, like there's napping blades, and then they'll keep whittling them down to like a bit of a point, almost like a knife. And then some that look a little bit like, like pyramid shaped, or then pyramid shaped with the top cut off a bit, look a bit more like an axe. Just little kind of like, instead of just a flint arrowhead type thing, just little flint shapes, little square shapes, oblongy shapes, and with a raised ridge in the middle, so it's a bit fatter in the middle, maybe so you can hold it. Yeah, just these like kind of flint type, like sharp rocky type stuff. But yeah, anyway, so these microliths are small, finely crafted stone implements that are commonly used for various ancient cultures. Similar microlithic industries can be found in both Southeast India and parts of Africa, suggesting a possible cultural connection. Dravidian languages share linguistic features with Afro-Asiatic language families, which includes the languages spoken in parts of Africa, Ethiopia, and Sudan. So, of course, then with Ethiopia, I'm thinking of the Ark of the Covenant stuff with reference to Graham Hancock and his book, The Sign and the Seal. Okay, links in the description on that. And Sudan as well. That's they pyramids pyramids in the heart of the kingdom of Kush. Okay, and that's the mirror pyramids, and they knew the Egyptians, and I know that was up north, but I don't know. I think a lot of this stuff's all connected together, and I think somehow Sudanese, they kind of lost connections with the Sudanese used to talk to the Egyptians. And then they both had hieroglyphs, and then they kind of like stopped communicating for a while, and then kind of couldn't read each other's stuff. And Sudanese have got 23 hieroglyphs, and nobody knows what they mean. So I'm on a bit of a hunt to find out what they are, just in general. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot to dig in with this stuff. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot to go with this work, and then it's a bit of a long haul, this one. So I'm not sure exactly what we're going to find with this. So I might have to keep coming back and revisiting this this sort of connecting cultures together from the ancient past. We'll keep doing this, and eventually, after a few shows, maybe we'll find something unusual, or someone that helps us out. Oh, hey, someone in the chat. Hey, Jess. It's a bit of a test one, this. I wasn't sure if it was going to work. I was having problems with the older computer there. I think it's a settings thing. Then I figured out it might be a firewall blocking stuff. But anyway, it's a little test one. But yeah, I'm going to be back. I think I've got it fixed. So yeah, I have to keep digging into these ancient cultures. But I've got to wrap up the show now because I'm trying to teach myself to be starting a radio clock for Troubled Minds Radio Network, KUAP, digital broadcasting. Ready for when the Exiled Minds podcast starts going on there. In fact, we've got some pre-records on there already. It's just when we get live, and I've got a lot of garden stuff I'm doing, so they've been working on that a lot. But anyway, yeah, that's it for today, exploring the Dravidian culture, and we're gonna be back tomorrow. Looks like the streams are working again now, so get back on the case tomorrow. And yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this one. I'm sorry it's been a bit been trying something new today, but once I get settled in, I think I'm gonna be right at this. I've got my studio pretty much where I need it, so it goes. Anyway, let's have some bumpy music just to take us out. Let's have something funky, some funky music right for the end there, because who don't like a bit of funky music, right? Anyway, Exiled Minds Podcast, Dravidian culture, links to India and Africa. We'll explore a little bit more. But thanks for tuning in. Check out Troubled Minds Radio Network, KUAP, Michael Strange, Troubled Minds Radio Show. Everybody's up there. Listen to this show, so I'll see you paranormal. Thanks so much for chat, Jess. And I'll catch you all soon. Woo! Like, share, and subscribe.